Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is the English translation of the Majlis of Hazrath Maulana Qamar Uzzaman Saheb Damat Barakatuhum, which took place on Saturday, the 21st of Ramadan 1443, before the Zohr Salat, corresponding with the English date 23rd of April 2022. Now, Hazrat Wala is saying that Hazrat Hakimul Ummah has compiled the Hayatul Muslimin, and he has mentioned that I have great hope that Allah may make my maghfirat by means of this kitab. Now, regarding dua, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned ad-du'a mukhul ibadah, that dua is the essence of ibadat. In certain narrations the words come ad-du'a huwal ibadah, that dua in itself is ibadat. Now, why is all of this? And why such a high status for dua? Because in dua a person humbles himself. He lowers himself in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah loves this. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has mentioned in a dua, Allahumma ana abduk wabnu abdik wabnu amatik. O Allah, I am your servant, the son of your male servant, the son of your female servant. Also, in tariq and our path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is a certain time also where the Shaykh leaves the murid and then he allows him to traverse and continue his path by means of dua. So Hazrat Tanvi has written this kitab Hayatul Muslimin, in which one of the ruhs and the babs is to make dua, supplication. Now the ulama also were very particular about dua. I mentioned to Hazrat Muhtamim Saheb that on one occasion we were traveling somewhere, and I said, listen, there's 2 points in dua. The one point of dua is that it is ibadat. That it is ibadat. So whether the dua is accepted or it is not accepted, we are still getting the reward of ibadat. And it is the objective, aslul maqasid, mukhul ibadah. There was an incident of a king, Akbar Shah, and he was traveling, he went out for hunting. Nevertheless, in the jungles and where he was, he became absolutely thirsty and he was in need. King of the whole Indo-Pak subcontinent, and now he's thirsty and he needs water. So he goes to the hut of a certain person, and that person gives him clean water to drink. He's indebted to that person, and he says to him, listen, if you pass by, you should come around and you can express and make apparent to me your needs. Time goes on, he comes to the palace of Akbar. The guards recognize him, they allow him to come in. When this person comes in, he finds Akbar engaged in dua. And he says to the people, what is he doing? And they say to him that he is asking Allah for his needs. Now look at this, look at the marifat. He says that if he himself is in need and is asking that Zat and being for his needs, then why shouldn't I ask that Zat myself for my needs? He did not even meet, he turns around and he returns. Allahu Akbar. A person came to a Buzruk and they said to him that why don't you go to the king and put forward to him, intercede on my behalf in front of the king. Nevertheless, he writes the letter, or maybe he could have went himself to put that intercession on behalf of this person forward. But in this year, listen to it, the ulama have liked this here. They said, Al-Mu'ti. If you give, Al-Mu'ti hu Allah wa antal mashkur. If you give, listen, the original giver is only Allah. However, we will be grateful to you. You will be thanked. And listen, if you don't give for some reason or the other, not a problem. Al-Mani' hu Allah wa antal ma'zur. That the preventer, the genuine preventer and the one who does not give eventually is also only Allah, and you will be understood to be excused. So this is the quality that should be in a mu'min, that when he asks, he should ask only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for small, meager and trivial things as well. And this is the demands of humbleness and the expression of helplessness. It is the demands of it. So we need to open this door of dua, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the giver. Hazrat Wala is saying that I seen Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Ahmad Saheb, I seen Maulana Abrar al-Haq Saheb, I seen Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb, and I seen how much all of them turned to dua, how active they were in making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, Al-ajzu fakhri, that humbleness, lowering myself, expressing my helplessness to Allah, this is my pride. So Hazrat Tanvi Rahmatullah Alayhi is saying that dua or supplication is to petition Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for one's needs and requirements, be such needs mundane or spiritual, be they in regard to one's worldly affairs or dini affairs, whether such affairs and needs are within one's ability of acquisition or not. In all cases, the Muslim has to supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the fulfillment of his needs. Now dua, Hazrat Tanvi Rahmatullah Alayhi is saying, for unlawful desires and needs is not permissible. While making dua, all the lawful means and agencies for the requirement should be harnessed. Example, the farmer, while making dua for his farm to yield, should at the same time engage in the means and ways of farming. One making dua for protection against an enemy should at the same time engage for recovery, should at the same time engage in the means. You should engage in the means of warding off the enemy. The sick, while making dua for recovery, should resort to medicine and treatment as well. One involved in litigation should also make dua for success in his court case. Engage the proper means of achieving the success as well. One engaged in the acquisition of Qur'ani and Dini knowledge should make dua for the barakat and success, while at the same time study properly and acquire whatever ways are essential for the correct acquisition of knowledge. Now knowledge is so amazing. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had so much of knowledge. Then to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ask for an increase in knowledge. Rabbi zidni ilma. One involved in ibadat should also strive against the lowly nafs and desires and the diversions of shaitan and the nafs, while at the same time make dua for aid from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for sincerity and steadfastness in his ibadat. Allahu Akbar. Now just look at that. You making ibadat, you carrying out ibadat for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but then too your dua is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for steadfastness and sincerity in ibadat. Now Hazrat Tanvi Rahmatullah Alayhi goes on to say, in affairs in which physical and material means and agencies where they have no role to play, one should in entirety resort to only dua. Example, rainfall. There is no physical and material means involved there. They don't have a role to play. So you ask only from Allah protection against plagues, the shaitan and the deception of nafs, protection from the oppression of cruel persons, etc. Now, dua does not mean the mere recitation of some words and the mere ritual reiteration of words after salat. The nature of dua consists of petitioning in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the earnestness and concern which people have when making appeals in the courts of the world should at least be adopted when making dua in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, when making dua, one's mind and body have to be concentrated and directed into the purpose of dua, and one should never lose hope in the event of the fulfillment of the dua being delayed, or if fulfillment is not discerned. One should have to submit to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dua is an appeal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is His sole prerogative to grant or to reject the appeals of His servants. We have no right to become disillusioned and despondent if we cannot discern acceptance of our dua. Now, the times are not restricted to the time of salat. Dua should be made at any time, whenever one requires something, although the time after salat is very efficacious for the acceptance of dua. Whenever and whatever one is in need of, immediately make dua with the heart as well as with the tongue. This then is the reality and the nature of dua. Now, when supplicating, do so according to the reality and nature of dua as has been described. If you do so, you will discern the efficacy and barakat of dua. Barakat of dua does not necessarily mean that whatever you ask for will be granted. At times, the very object sought for is obtained. Example, something in regard to the akhirat, because a favor or a bounty of the akhirat is pure goodness for the servant. For the attainment of the fortunes of the akhirat, iman and ita'at, belief and obedience are conditions. Without these conditions, the blessings of the akhirat are not attainable. Sometimes the object asked for is not obtained. Example, an object of requirement of the world. This is also because sometimes the worldly object supplicated for is harmful and sometimes beneficial. If it is beneficial, in the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He grants it to the servant, and when it is harmful, He withholds it from the servant, just as a father would deny his child an object which is detrimental to his interest. The meaning of barakat in this context is that the attention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is directed to the servant. Thus, if due to some reason known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the object asked for is not granted, then too contentment, let's just go over that one again. Thus, if due to some reason known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the object asked for is not granted, then too there would be contentment. He is not overcome with frustration, so you should adopt contentment. You should not be overcome by frustration and weakness. This spiritual strength with which the heart is imbued is the effect of the special attention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a result of the dua made by the servant. This special attention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a great treasure. All other treasures pale into insignificance in its presence. This special attention is, in fact, man's original capital, which he has to strive for, and it is the possession of this treasure which will bring him comfort and peace in this world and in the year after, the akhirat. Now the limitless bounties of the year after is obtainable as a result of this special attention which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala focuses on His servants. There is therefore never the slightest fear of being deprived. The one who makes dua is never deprived because of the inherent barakat of dua. Now some ahadith pertaining to the significance of dua will now be narrated. Hazrat Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala narrated that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, the servant's dua is accepted as long as he does not ask for something sinful or something unkind for his relatives, and as long as he is not impatient. It was asked, O Rasulullah, what is the meaning of being impatient? It means to say, I've asked dua time and again, but it has not been answered. So saying one gives up asking dua. This hadith is mentioned in Muslim. This hadith stresses the continuous making of dua even if the dua seemingly is not accepted. Hazrat Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, nothing is more appreciable to Allah than dua. This hadith is in Tirmizi and Ibn Majah. Hazrat Ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, dua is beneficial in everything. It is efficacious in warding off misfortunes which have already descended, as well as misfortunes which are about to descend. Therefore, the servants of Allah should be steadfast in making dua. This is in Tirmizi and Ahmad. Hazrat Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Allah becomes angry with one who refrains from dua. Hazrat Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, you should continuously engage in dua and firmly believe that Allah is accepting your dua. Allah ta'ala does not accept the dua of one whose heart is callous. Tirmizi. So dua must be made with earnestness and concentration of mind and body, while at the same time believing that the dua is definitely being accepted by Allah. Non-attainment of the object of dua should not be misconstrued as non-acceptance. The dua is most certainly accepted, but obtainable, the dua being obtained that object should be sought for after. Why? Because this is subject to the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as been early explained. You can get it now or maybe later, or maybe it's beneficial or maybe it's harmful. Hazrat Abu Sa'id Khudri radiallahu ta'ala narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, any Muslim who makes a dua and his dua does not contain a request for anything sinful or anything regarding the severance of family ties, Allah Ta'ala grants him one of the three things most assuredly. Number one, what he asked is granted immediately. Number two, what he asked is saved for him as a treasure in the akhirah. Or number three, Allah wards away some calamity for him in lieu of the object asked for. The Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum then said that they will resort to dua in abundance. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam replied that by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everything is in abundance. There is no dua that is returned empty. Hazrat Anas radiallahu ta'ala narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, everyone should petition his creator Listen to that hadith again. Everyone should petition his Rabb, his Creator, for all his needs. In the narration of Hazrath Thabit, radiyallahu ta'ala an, it is said that everyone should ask his Creator for all his needs, even be it salt, or be it a shoelace, which when it breaks. So one should not consider it improper to make dua for insignificant items, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even things which are insignificant, great and valuable by us are insignificant in His gaze. Everything is small in Allah's gaze. So you should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it. So ask, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. Ask Allah. Why are you asking the people? Because He is the nurturer of people. Malikin Nas. Ask Allah, because He is the king of people. Why are you turning to people? Their king is Allah. So this month, Hazrat Wala is saying that it is the month of acceptance. So we should stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and humbly petition Him and ask Him for whatever we need. Now let us make dua that Allah ta'ala fulfill our needs, whether they are dini or imani or dunyawi. Allah ta'ala protect us from sin. Allah ta'ala protect us from apostasy. Allah ta'ala give us the tawfiq and hidayat of making dua. Allah ta'ala grant us complete salvation from all tests, trials, misfortunes and calamities. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم بحرمة سيد النبي الكريم صلى الله عليه وسلم.